234 AD, Wuzhang Plains. The air hangs thick with dust and desperation. Zhuge Liang, brilliant chancellor of Shuhan, sits exhausted in his command tent, planning his fifth and final northern campaign against the Wei dynasty. He's barely eating, sleeping 3 hours a night, personally managing everything from troop movements to meal rations because apparently nobody else can fold a supply manifest correctly. Across the Wei River, Sima Yi waits with 200,000 troops, dug in deeper than a paranoid mole. The two greatest strategists of the Three Kingdoms era locked in a stalemate that will last 100 days and end with Zhuge Liang dying of exhaustion at age 54. But let's change one thing. Let's drop a 70-ton German Leopard 2A7 main battle tank onto this ancient battlefield and watch what happens. Will it save Zhuge Liang's life, or just give him one more thing to micromanage himself to death over? The Leopard 2A7 is the heaviest tank on Earth, packing a 120mm smoothbore cannon that fires depleted uranium rounds at 5,740 feet per second. It has third-generation thermal imaging that can spot a man taking a leak from 2.5 miles away in complete darkness. Its composite armor can shrug off modern anti-tank missiles. The Wei dynasty has crossbows. This isn't a fair fight. It's a war crime waiting for the Geneva Convention to be invented 1,700 years later so it can be violated. The tank appears at Wuzhang Plains with a full combat load of 42 main gun rounds, 4,750 machine gun rounds, and 320 gallons of diesel fuel. That fuel is critical because, spoiler alert, petroleum refining won't be invented for another 1,600 years. The tank has maybe 24 hours of active combat operations before it becomes the world's most expensive lawn ornament. But 24 hours should be enough, right? Let's find out. Night 1. Historically, Zhuge Liang tried a night assault on the Wei position at Yangsui. Guo Huai saw it coming and fortified the approach, turning it into a bloodbath. But this time, the tank crew uses thermal optics to spot Guo Huai's fortified Wei positions glowing like Christmas lights in the darkness. The gunner loads a DM-11 high-explosive airburst round, a programmable munition that can be set to detonate at any altitude. It's basically smart artillery from 2,000 years in the future. The round streaks out at Mach 5 and detonates 15 feet above the Wei defensive line. 40 Wei soldiers die instantly. 100 more are shredded by tungsten fragments. The rest think the gods are personally angry at them and flee screaming into the darkness. Guo Huai's carefully prepared defense collapses without Shu losing a single man. Zhuge Liang watches from a distance, completely baffled. His scouts report that invisible fire fell from the sky and the enemy simply ceased to exist. He spends the next 3 hours trying to figure out if his prayers were finally answered or if he's having stress-induced hallucinations. It's neither. It's German engineering, but good luck explaining that to a man who thinks the height of technology is a wooden ox that transports grain. 2 nights later, Sima Yi attempts his historical night raid on the Shu camp. He personally leads 8,000 troops planning to burn supply wagons and create chaos. The tank is on sentry duty half a mile away, thermal imagers scanning the darkness. At 02:15 hours, the crew spots 8,000 heat signatures moving in formation. The commander calmly orders engagement. 13 high-explosive rounds later, 2,500 Wei soldiers are casualties, and Sima Yi is retreating at a dead sprint. His famous patience replaced by the primal urge to not be near whatever hell demon Zhuge Liang just summoned. The tank crew didn't even finish their coffee. Here's where it gets interesting. Sima Yi isn't stupid. He's the guy who spent his entire career outlasting opponents through defensive strategy and patience. After losing a quarter of his raiding force to an invisible enemy, he does what he does best and refuses to engage. He pulls his entire army back, starts digging anti-tank ditches 10 feet deep and 30 feet wide, floods the lowlands using river diversions to create mud traps, and spreads his forces across a 12-mile front so the tank can only kill one small unit at a time. He's essentially invented modern anti-armor doctrine 1,700 years early, and he's doing it without even understanding what a tank is. His troops just call it the iron demon that breathes fire. Sima Yi's spies report that the demon must drink black liquid to move. It roars before attacking, and after many strikes it falls silent for a time. He correctly deduces that even demons have limitations and decides to wait for it to starve. Meanwhile, Zhuge Liang faces a nightmare. The tank burns through 13 gallons of fuel per hour during combat operations. He's got maybe 48 hours of operational time left, and every engagement is burning through irreplaceable ammunition. He can't resupply diesel because petroleum doesn't exist yet, and vegetable oil clogs the fuel system faster than his arteries are clogging from stress and sleep deprivation. He realizes the tank is tactically invincible, but strategically useless because Sima Yi simply won't fight him. It's the same problem nuclear weapons posed in Vietnam, overwhelming firepower that can't force a decisive engagement. The tank can destroy anything it sees, but it can't occupy territory, can't guard supply lines, can't make Sima Yi stop being smart, and most critically, it can't reduce Zhuge Liang's workload. In fact, now he has to personally oversee tank operations, coordinate combined arms tactics that won't be invented for 1,700 years, train crew members, manage ammunition rationing, hide the tank's limitations from spies, and plan for the inevitable moment when it runs out of fuel and becomes a 70-ton paperweight. 3 weeks into the campaign, the tank is out of fuel and down to 18 main gun rounds. Zhuge Liang hasn't slept in 36 hours. He's eating maybe one meal a day, vomiting blood from stress ulcers or stomach cancer, and trying to solve an impossible logistics problem. How do you feed 100,000 troops across 120 miles of hostile mountains when your miracle weapon just became an immobile bunker? The answer is, you don't. You work yourself into an early grave trying. In September 234, Zhuge Liang collapses in his tent. The tank sits silent 200 yards away, a monument to the limits of technology. Jiang Wei uses the last 18 rounds to cover the retreat, and Sima Yi cautiously pursues before falling for the famous wooden statue ruse and retreating again, convinced the whole thing was an elaborate trap. The Shu army withdraws. The tank is either destroyed or captured, and Wei historians spend the next century arguing about whether it was real or mass hallucination. So would the tank save Zhuge Liang? No. And here's the brutal irony, it might have killed him faster. The tank didn't reduce his workload, it multiplied it. It didn't solve his strategic problems, it amplified them. It didn't give him rest, it gave him one more impossible thing to manage. Zhuge Liang died because he refused to delegate, because he worked 20-hour days, because he believed only he could save Shu. He didn't need a Leopard 2A7. He needed a vacation, a therapist, and maybe some antibiotics. The tank could destroy armies, but it couldn't cure exhaustion, couldn't force an enemy to fight, and couldn't overcome the fundamental truth that wars are won by logistics and strategy, not by firepower alone. Sometimes the most advanced weapon in the world can't save you from yourself. If you enjoyed watching a German tank fail to solve ancient Chinese political problems, hit subscribe. And drop a comment telling us what other historical figures you want to see fail to solve their problems with modern military hardware. Thanks for watching.